be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew.
Glory to you.
Jesus said to his disciples, "You are the salt of the earth, but if salt loses its taste, with what can it be seasoned? It is no longer good for anything to be thrown up, but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city set on a mountain cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and then put it under a bushel basket. It is set on a lampstand, where it gives light to all the house. Just so, your light must shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and give glory to your heavenly Father." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
20 years ago, when I was still working for a living, everybody always finds that funny. I don't know why. I'm just saying it true. I happened to take a vacation trip to go on a scuba diving trip for a week. And it was to an island called 𝐼𝐻𝐻. It's in the southern part of Finland. And as we were flying into the island, I noticed these big pools that had all of this pink water in it. And I had no idea what this was. They were obviously man-made. They weren't irregular in size. They were, rectangular. So they'd obviously been created, and for whatever reason, they were full of this pink water. I had no idea what this was about. So after, getting on the ground and kind of getting settled in, I started asking some of the locals what this was. And apparently what it really is it's a solar salt facility. Right? So what they do is they pump in seawater into these large pools and just let the sun go to work. And after a while, the sun keeps evaporating the water off, and what gets left behind is salt. Apparently the pink color comes from other things that are in it. There's iron in the water, or clay, or copper, or something like that. That's what actually gives it the pink shade. But that's all this was just going back to, prehistoric times, basically, of how they made salt. Pump it in, let the water evaporate off, collect the salt that's left over. And I found it a very interesting thing because, it is one of these that's so ancient of being able, the way of producing salt, been done for thousands of years in the exact same way. And all of it because it has a purpose. Think about it, salt really has two roles. It has first to add flavor to something. That's probably how we see it more these days. But in ancient times, it had a role in preservation. It still does in some way. You can, right? There's salt that goes in canning, and it helps preserve the stuff that you're canning. But in the ancient times, when there was no refrigeration, using salt as a preservative was a way of being able to keep something from spoiling. There's no other way to preserve it. So things were packed in salt in order to retard bacteria growth and keep things, so that it was edible at some point. But all of that salt, if you think about it, it's all been revealed by the power of the sun. It's in the water, it's mixed in there with everything else, but it's the heat and the light of the sun that does the work and eventually reveals the salt that's actually been hidden and mixed within the water itself. It's interesting that this reading happens to fall coming off of last weekend. And last weekend we celebrated the Feast of the Presentation. And we all came in and we had candles and we were recalling the fact that Jesus is the light of the world. Right? And we celebrate that in a very special way at Easter time with the Easter candle and all of that. The Feast of the Presentation is a reminder of Jesus, the light. That he has come into the world to dispel the darkness, and the darkness cannot stand up against it. They're not equals. Darkness is just waiting for the light to dispel it. In this reading, it kind of ties that together, but it gives us a mission associated with it. about what's taking place here, you know, in this gospel reading, it's the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount. Chapters 5 through 7 of Matthew's gospel is the Sermon on the Mount. We're at the beginning of that. And actually, we're going to hear from that for the next couple of weekends before we enter into Lent. But the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus begins in telling the disciples that were gathered together that they are the salt of the earth. And if salt loses its taste, with what can it be seasoned? Now this would have rung really true with the people of that time, and it should with us, because we know that salt can go bad, but it still has a purpose in providing flavor and things that we do. And probably many of us, our doctors tell us to cut back on it, you know, because it's so prevalent in our diets as it is. But if it loses it, what good is it anymore? And he goes on to continue on with that theme of light, that you are the light of the world. And you don't take a light and put it under a bushel basket, because of what good is that? But a light is meant to be put on a lampstand so that the brightness of the light can shine. We talked about last weekend that Jesus, the light of the world, has come and given that light to us. Through the power of our baptism, by the grace of the Holy Spirit, the light of Christ resides within us. And this reading is telling us it's not just meant to be hidden there. That light is meant to do something, or it will go sour just like salt will. We need to let that light shine. It needs to be doing something. It needs to be active. It can't just be enclosed within us. We're frustrating the work of God if we're just allowing ourselves to be closed. The reading from Isaiah, the first reading, it gives us a sense of how we're supposed to let that light shine. It says that if you do these good works, these things that we call the works of mercy, if you're clothing the naked, if you're feeding the hungry, if you're giving drink to the thirsty, if you're taking care of the needs of other people, you're letting that light shine. The grace of God that's within you becomes visible to others by the good deeds that we do. We're not meant to hoard what's within. We're meant to share it. We're meant to make it known to others. To not let the light be under a bushel basket, but to shine, so that others can see the good news of Jesus Christ by the good things that we do. We are the light of the world because Jesus, who is the light of all, resides within us. And we're meant to share that light with others. Don't hide it. Don't be afraid. Be a disciple. Take care of the needs of others and let your light shine.